As I said, the press story is an important one to us. That's the image of Gail Borden that I can get rights to use, old Gail. So we're going to be developing a lot of this story as a central part of our theme. And one of the things we'd love to do is have a replica printing press that you can come and print copies of the Travis broadside or print copies of the Declaration and take home with you. So I hope to bring that to a museum to you soon. And we're developing a lot. Part of the theme of the internal panel exhibit we're working on now has to do with the different types of people that were in San Felipe. Obviously, we know a lot about the old 300s, the early colonists, but we're looking at the broader colonial model. We're looking at the types of people in terms of what they did. One of my favorites here, William Huff, who was a naturalist collecting fossils that he hoped to put in a museum in England if he ever got back home there. It never happened. Ironically, his cabin, when it was burned, had some of his fossil collection in it. That's been found. So when I build the museum, I'm going to have charred mammoth bones in the museum. It will tell a wonderfully cyclical story about naturalists in colonial Texas who had stuff and then the burning of the town. So it'll be a fun thing for us to put together. But those are the kind of things we're trying to develop and share with folks here. For the next year, we're really excited about working with the old 300. So I heard earlier Tim Cummings couldn't make it. There he is. We'll celebrate Tim from a distance from Fort Bend County. The old 300 is working with us. We're trying to encourage a database, an interest base of people that are descended from the broader colonial contracts. So not just the old 300, but all 5 of Austin's colonial contracts. And one of the reasons, one of my very selfish reasons for that, is that we hope there are descendants who have neat colonial stuff, documents or artifacts in their collections at home that just really didn't know what to do with them because there hasn't been an Austin Colony Museum. Many of your great museums that are connected to the story, utilize some of those artifacts. Fort Bend Museum's got a great straw hat that belongs to C.C. Dyer, who comes to visit too. They've got a wonderful Carrie Plow, all kinds of neat things. So we would love to see maybe some new artifacts emerge through our effort to build a museum that are just so you're aware, since you're close by, these are what we have coming up kind of between now and the end of the year, roughly. We have an October archaeology event every year because our agency promotes archaeology awareness, of course. This year it's going to be on Saturday, October 6th, and it will be themed around the Bernardo Plantation. Those of you that have joined me the last couple of years, I apologize. This is my 3rd year in a row themed on the Bernardo Plantation. I believe we're still negotiating. I'm not sure there's going to be active digging going on this year at Bernardo. So what we plan to do is have a number of people, speakers from the project, here with us at the site. They're going to be bringing artifacts that were discovered as part of that project. And if you don't know anything about it, it's a fascinating mix of contemporary technology archaeology. So they basically hit a home run with ground penetrating radar and found this house with the least problem you could ever imagine. It's getting a little trickier now. They can't find any of the outbuildings, but the house was a home run. And so they'll be here on the 6th. There is a new book written about the Bernardo Project by a local historian, Jim Woodrick. So those of you from Austin County that know Jim, come get him to sign a book for you. Actually, I apologize. He's not going to be here on the 6th. He's got a UT football conflict. But he is going to be here on November 3rd. So come get your book on the 6th and then come see us again on the 3rd. That's our annual Father of Texas celebration. This year, the church across the street, the Methodist Church, is celebrating the 175th anniversary of their congregation's formation, so we're partnering with them as part of our November 3rd event. We are optimistic that the land where the museum is going to be built will be acquired. It's right across the street. And if that's true, we would be linking those 3 elements as part of our festival this year, trying to do some programming across the board. This is also, of course, the 107th anniversary of the Austin County formation and Fort Bend County as well. So we're going to try to do some things to celebrate that as well. We do an inaugural golf tournament coming up in March. Our local golf course wants to put museum exhibits on the golf tees. So we're working with them to put the story of San Felipe on tee boxes. And right now, he's got an interesting numbers game. He gets 40,000 golfers from Houston and the West Houston area every year. I get about 10,000 visitors. So I'm pretty excited to have museum content at the golf course. We'll see what happens. I've had a couple of guys show up on rainy days and give me their tee fee, their fees to play, grounds fees. And usually it's in the $30 to $40 range, so that's a nice little donation for us. Then obviously we're working on the Austin Colony Museum. And if you're not familiar with Mike Vance's work, I've been promoting it lately because he's getting to a good spot. He's with Houston Arts and Media. It's a nonprofit that uses media and film to do a lot of historic work. You may know him from an old TV show that he did called Postcards from Texas, which was an effort to sort of revive the Eyes of Texas model. Through some politics and budget issues, that program is no more. But Mike and his crew are still working on documentaries. They're working with Dr. Stephen Hardin to a series of documentaries on early Texas history. San Felipe is expected to be chapter 2. He is working on it as he raises nickels and quarters out of the sofa cushions. He loved financial support, and if you have any interest or know someone that would like to help him, I know he's working hard on that. When it exists, I'm sure we'll be showing his documentary here at our site. So thanks for coming out today. The TAC says we're trying to be a real place with a real story. So I hope you saw some of the things that we think we can bring to light in a museum. I often make a list of people that are direct partners of us in some of our efforts. So since you know a lot of those good folks, I'll give you a second to see them all. And then I'll take any questions. Or I've just stunned you all into silence.
Any idea of timeline?
We have actually agreed to a sale price, and both parties have signed a contract. So buying land in San Felipe, holy cow. Stephen F. Austin had no idea what he was getting into. We're optimistic that we'll close on the land within the state's fiscal year, which would mean between now and the end of August. Owning the land will create the next step, which will be doing a bit of an archaeological clearance where we want to build. The good news is the private land archaeology that I mentioned, they did some work over there. That report should be coming in soon. Those of you that know Mary Ann Mark, she's the principal on that. Her report, I'm not going to say it was long ago due, but it's in the edit process, and we'll have it soon. So we'll look at that. We'll decide what we need to do to be satisfied. We're not going to cover or destroy anything. But we already have budget set aside for a development plan, an architectural design plan for the property and for where the museum would sit. And then we have budget set aside for the museum. I'm excited to say, if any of you were here with the old 300 a couple of weeks ago, our state rep, Lois Colkhorst, has sung the same song for as long as I've known her here at San Felipe. She is considering an appropriations bill filing that would maybe bring something like $10 million into the coffer of putting this together. That's a lot more money than we have set aside to do it. So, and getting back to where I started this discussion, in her mind, just like mine, there is no other significant Texas history theme out there that we've not covered. We did the State Museum. We got a World War II museum that's going pretty good. There's not too much. Now, there'll be some interesting developments, I think, in the future. One of the sites I used to work with, the Levi Jordan Plantation, is being identified as maybe an African-American center for Texas history, which could be a different scale of a lot of what we do. But this is really something that could be really big. If the money comes into being, if we can get it in place, and I think those things become very self-fulfilling. If we get support from the legislature, or if we can get this thing moving quickly, I think museums that have cool stuff will see the value in sitting it here. So that's certainly what we hope happens. So the longer term, Bert, would be, I tell people we're on a 2 to 3 year plan to get the museum built. We've been moving pretty fast for the state. I'm optimistic right now. Thank you, Greg.
You said you were going to try to collect from beyond the old 300.
Yes. Well, and I'll take things from the old 300 too.
Yeah, but to the 5
yes.
colleges. Does that specifically exclude DeWitt?
Well, you know, my concern would be, working for the Historical Commission, there are places where things related to the DeWitt story may more appropriately be. We're not going to turn things down. You know, Moses Austin said we struggled with this in the early part of the 20th century. Where do we send Austin stuff that we have?
Will you come to the bar I have shaded for you? Your bed shall be of roses bespangled with your dew. Will you come to the bar? Will you come to the bar?
So I can't tell you we wouldn't take things related to West Colony. I can tell you we might encourage a donor, if there were a better place for that, we might want them to center it where it would make a little more sense. You know, the state has sent us here with the mission of interpreting Stephen F. Austin's colonial effort in Texas, so that's going to be the gist of our focus. But there's a lot of crossover in that colonial story, and obviously Austin inspired many of those other impresarios that came as well. So I would say never say never. Our focus is going to be on things we can directly relate to Stephen F. Austin and to his bringing colonists to Texas. You want me to turn this off while you're talking?
Yeah. Thank you, Bryan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was great. There under the box of roses you like, with a blush on your cheek, but a smile in your eye. Will you smile, my beloved? Will you smile, my beloved? But the roses we press shall not rival your lip, nor the dew be so sweet as the kisses per sip. Will you kiss me, my beloved? Will you kiss me, my beloved? And oh, for the joys that are sweeter than dew, from languishing roses or kisses from you. Will you, won't you, my love? Will you, won't you, my love? Will you come to the bar? Will you come to